afternoon, and konbanwa wherever you are in the world. I'm Dial to give you the wings to fly, Cyber Angel, Rita Kamishiro of Lucid Multimedia at your service. And welcome to the media that shapes us, the show about our favorite games, anime, media, music, what have you, and how they shape each and every one of us. And today I have a very special guest that I'm super excited to introduce to you all. Let us do a nice little drum roll for the one and only Wonder Riku. Woohoo! Welcome in, welcome in. For those who don't know, also a good buddy of mine as well. So this is a very exciting episode for me today. How are you feeling? How's it going?
Hey.
Welcome, welcome.
It's so good to be here. It's so good to see everyone.
Nice,
and I'm excited to brain rot about video games.
Oh, me too. And not to expose us, but we were both talking about beforehand. We were like, we both just like woke up within the past few hours. Also, the background disappeared.
Yeah.
As you can tell, the background is obviously controlled by my mind, and my mind is not fully awake yet, apparently. But welcome in, one and all. And for those who don't know who Riku is, if you're not familiar with the one and only Wonder Riku, he is a platinum-selling J-pop songwriter, composer, producer, and lyricist. And he's worked with some awesome folks like J-pop groups like King and Prince and Kid Phenomenon, and has also worked with quite a few Hololive talents as well. Also, together with Starlight Daryl, Riku also works on some of the things you've heard just now: songwriting, composition, music production, and artist development as Starlight and Wonder. They even offer artist development packages as well that you sort of offer one-on-one support in order to create a unique musical identity, whether it's through their original songs or BGM. So really cool stuff. And of course, I mentioned this before, but Riku is also a good friend, colleague, and mentor of mine. We first met 2 years ago working on my original song, Heartbeats. A Hopeful Heart what? Beats louder! And yeah, no, since then, oh my gosh, it's been 2 years since then. We've learned
That's
and
crazy.
grown, I know, so much together. We've released a number of original fan songs, including our most recent release, Rise Again. And you know, you've been listening to me yap for so long. I'll go ahead and hand it off to Riku to not only, I guess, finish off his introduction if he has anything else he wants to say, and also talk a little bit about Rise Again.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Wonder Riku. Thank you for that lovely intro, Rita. I think it's such a nice thing for you to refer to me as a mentor. I've never really thought about being in that role kind of in our kind of friendship and everything, but that really means the world to hear that. It really does. I also, in many ways, Rita has really been a mentor to me as well, particularly as someone who can lead creative projects and be an incredible leader and creative visionary. There's a lot of that I've taken into my own projects since working with Rita that I've learned from Rita. So I think it goes both ways in our partnership, and I think it's why we always have such a good time working together as well. Yeah, we had some amazing opportunities, particularly with Method, which was a song that we did for the Honkai Star Rail Multiverse Vistas competition last year. And we had that amazing first place award with that. And there's been some incredible opportunities that came with that. We released Liberame around about this time last year, which was our first official collaboration with Hoyoverse. And now Rise Again has just released on a couple of weeks ago. It came out on Crunchyroll for the Hoyo Fair, Honkai Star Rail Hoyo Fair. And that will be coming out officially on YouTube on the 22nd of November, which is actually my birthday. How cool.
What an amazing birthday present to yourself. All the hard work to give yourself this birthday present.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, if you want to get to know Riku more, I see some folks have already started checking him out. You can check him out on YouTube, Twitter, and any major streaming service, right, for his music as well. Any other place you want to be shouted out on?
No, it's mostly Twitter is where I live and rot, and
I know
YouTube.
It's an unfortunate existence.
I know.
I feel you there.
but YouTube is somewhere that been putting more content up recently, and in the next couple of months, particularly going into next year, there's going to be a lot more coming out on my YouTube channel. So yeah, I hope we can continue to hang out there too.
Yeah, Riku is so cool, guys. Riku is like super awesome, so you definitely got to check him out for real. A little tangent, but one of my friends, I guess at some point after we met each other and became good friends, they were like, yeah, I was a huge fan of you. And I was like, wait, likewise. Like, I also really admired your work, and we came up with this word called symbiosis, where like we both mutually simp for one another as friends. It's great. So I was like, yeah, well, I'm such cool friends that I could have symbiosis with.
Definitely have symbiosis. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. And that's why I'm so excited to have you here today, so everyone can really get to know more about who Wonder Riku is, especially through one of our favorite game series. We both really enjoy this game series. So I'm really excited to brain rot with you, so I don't want to keep the intro too long. So Riku, how do you kick us off with talking about The Legend of Zelda? For those who are uninitiated to the world of The Legend of Zelda, give us a quick, brief sort of introduction to the series. And then also, why was Zelda formative for you?
That's a challenge. So the Legend of Zelda is a series that's existed for over 35 years now, I believe. It's this classic series that has evolved from like very simple, humble early roots into what it is now. But a lot of the key things of the series are the idea of adventure, the idea of kind of good triumphing over evil, and discovery is an exploration or a huge part of that. The series has evolved in so many different ways. Sometimes there's more of a focus on the exploration and side of things. Sometimes there's more of a focus on the narrative. But either way, these kind of core things of persevering through adversity, of using your wit as well as your strength to solve problems are like a lot of the core themes. And I think that's why like it's a very universal game. It is one of the most successful video game series of all time. Pretty much anybody who plays video games has played a Zelda game at some point. And so I think it's a very important piece of media for that reason. Because like when we have like these things that have such big mass appeal to them, I think it's important to try and figure out like why is this so successful? Why does this resonate with a majority of people in the world? And that's something that I really enjoy trying to pick apart with Zelda.
Sure.
For me, like my journey with Zelda began, I think most people have like a Zelda game that they resonated with as a child. And I certainly had that. And I think that first Zelda game for a lot of people is one that they have a lot of nostalgia for. For me, it was The Wind Waker, which probably dates me. So how old I am. Although it dates me even more actually because I wasn't that young when I played The Wind Waker. I was maybe like... and it had already been out for a little while. I didn't grow up with video games until I was maybe like about 10 years old or something. Wind Waker had already been out for a little while after then. I'm old enough to have I should have been playing Ocarina of Time as a young kid. I'm kind of that old, but I didn't have Nintendo 64. So.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and I think it just like it's a series that when you're a kid, it ignites that childlike sense of wonder and discovery that I think we're all inherently born with as children.
For sure.
And Wind Waker I feel like it's one of the games that focuses on the discovery and the exploration more than a lot of other Zelda games. It's a really big focus of the world in that game. So I think that's where it kind of resonated with me.
For sure. And we're definitely going to be diving into a lot of parts of what you just mentioned of what makes Zelda such a successful series, not just for you, of course, but for so many people across the world. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about a sense of exploration and storytelling in Zelda. We'll also talk about how Zelda was a really important part for not just your personal development, but for lots of folks' personal development. And then also sort of how it's affected your journey as a musician, sort of what musical inspirations you've drawn from the Legend of Zelda series. And I just want to do a quick shout out to this book that I've been slowly reading over the course of like a year or so. I read bits and pieces of it, whenever I find the time to do so, but it's called The Psychology of Zelda, linking our world to the Legend of Zelda series. It's, written by a variety of psychologists, but edited by Anthony Bean. Such a cool last name, Bean. So huge shout out to them. I will be sharing some fun little, anecdotes and things that I've read from the book throughout this episode. So I hope you enjoy. But speaking of which, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as like a university lecturer myself as well, whenever I can find like formal academic writing on like something that I'm super nerdy about, I get really excited. So like as soon as you showed me that book and sent me the link to it, I'm like, oh my God.
I need this show is full of tangents, by the way. I try to be like super like formal and a signpost and do things well, but also I'm like the ADHD is gonna ADHD. But tangent, I eventually want to like do like academic writing about like VTubers or like VTuber music or something like, you know what I mean? So I'll definitely let you know. And not if, when that happens, right? Oh my gosh. But yeah, let's go ahead and start. You're not just going to be seated. You're going to be like beta reading that. You're gonna
Please,
you will be interviewed for that. Anyway, I'll go ahead and start things off then with a fun little, anecdote that I wrote to sort of segue into this first segment from the psychology of Zelda. But yeah, what makes Zelda so great? Well, you've probably heard of the hero's journey before. I'm sure we all have in our English classes and whatnot. If you're not familiar, the hero's journey is created by Joseph Campbell in 1940. And the hero's journey was then refined by Christopher Vogler into 3 main acts. It's sort of a framework in how we can understand the stories that we read. We have the ordinary world, the special world, and the return. That's sort of the 3 major arcs in these journeys that heroes take. And Vogler posits that a hero's success in connecting with audiences depends on how well it follows this formula. And Link's adventures throughout Hyrule do just that. From waking up in the ordinary world at the beginning of every game to seizing the sword in the special world to finally defeating Ganon or whatever dark entity in the return. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung believed that these archetypes we see in these stories teach us important things about ourselves, and that it is what me when I can't speak. It's what provides the story with meaning, right? And of course, the lasting success of the Zelda series shows us just how well we are able to create that bond with Link's journey. So I want to ask Riku, but also you all out there in the audience, what were the moments in Link's journey that were the most impactful for you?
So it's obviously dependent on what game you're kind of following in the series, and Link's journey changes somewhat throughout all of those. But I think one of the things that is such a big part of a lot of RPGs are the side quests, the times where your main character takes some time out from their main quests to just like help other people, just like normal people who are in need. And I think because Zelda was my first introduction to those kind of side quests, I think there's a lot of really core lessons to be learned there about just like kindness, about empathy, about when you have power and you have the means to help people, doing that kind of without hesitation. And I know obviously like in a game sense, like it's just a normal thing that you do because you assume there's going to be some reward at the end of it, but like a lot of the time the reward of those side quests is quite minimal. It's like a little like collectible item here, a tiny bit of money, like something like that. Like it's not something that's gonna like help you beat the Demon King, or get there any faster. But you know, you're doing it because there are people who need help, and that's your role, is someone to kind of help people. And I think there are a lot of video games where the main characters are quite talkative, and they have a lot of their own personality. I think Link being a silent protagonist it allows you to be able to project yourself into him a lot easier.
For sure.
But also, I really love what they did with that in the Wilds games, where in a lot of like Zelda's notes and stuff, where she's talking about Link, about how like there's a lore reason why he's silent. Like that's just how he is. Like he is this like stoic kind of presence that really is an emotional foundation for Zelda when there's so much turbulence in her life and there's so much uncertainty. Link provides this sense of stability and safety for her. And I think that's really inspiring, that we can kind of also try and be that for the people who we love and care about too. Yeah.
Absolutely. When you said Link being a silent protagonist is easier for us to sort of put ourselves in Link's shoes. For whatever reason, I thought about that one. I think it's in the Gerudo town. There's an option, I think it's for like the seal racing. And there's like 3 options and they're all puns about seals. I don't know why that was like the first thing I thought of. Like, yes, Link is silent and stoic. And then I think of the seal things. I'm like, but he can also be a goofy guy, which is great. It's such a range, if you will. Oh my goodness. And it's great that you mentioned that side quests are such a big part of the journey for you, because I feel like a lot of the times, not just in games, but in life as well, we focus so much on that final victory, right? Defeating Ganon, defeating Dark Link, or, finally getting that job, or finally graduating, or finally getting, that degree or whatever. But a lot of the times we forget that to get there is a series of side quests and failures and game overs and redos and things like that. And a lot of the times when we're in the thick of it, right, in the thick of the grind, where we get burnt out because we don't remember, like, what am I doing this for? Or like, is this all worth it? But at the end of the day, it's like that journey itself is also a huge part of you learning and growing and becoming the person that can defeat Ganon or Dark Link or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, imagine if you picked up a Zelda game and you just decided that all you were going to do is the main story and not do any of the other content. And like, I kind of feel like your experience of the game would probably be a lot more hollow and shallow, and almost like saving Hyrule wouldn't carry the weight to it. You know how like in the credits, like they almost always do a thing where like you get to revisit all of the different NPCs that you've met throughout the entire journey, and you get to see what their lives are now that the kingdom has been saved. Like that, the credit scenes like that only hit that hard because you know who all these people are. You've gone through all these journeys with them, and like it just the meaning of that doesn't hit as hard and isn't as impactful if you've not experienced that. And I think that's exactly the same as like real life. If you just kind of like try and min-max your life journey to like, all I'm going to do is just like achieve the one thing that I'm aiming to do, and I'm not going to do anything else. Like connections with your friends, with your family, with the people in your communities. For sure. Then it's like, you can achieve your goal, but like it's a kind of hollow victory.
What are you fighting for? Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I guess it's like, sure, you can just focus on the fact that you're doing this for Zelda, but it's like, what about the stable people who like you meet along your journey? What about the villagers? Things like that. And I love that. I don't know. I love how side quests do that. They sort of give you a sense of like, I am part of the community and I do this for them. And again, it's also part of the world building as well. But you mentioned something about min-maxing, and I want to take a second to talk about sort of our shared horror in this conversation that we had prior to going live about our least fan. Would you say it's your least favorite Zelda game as well?
Oh, I feel like this is gonna upset people.
It's gonna preface this by saying everyone can have different opinions on things, and that doesn't invalidate your opinion. Okay?
Yeah.
I'll say it. I'll break the ice. As the host, I'll take this burden off of you. We were both talking about how both of our least favorite games is Majora's Mask because we both get so stressed out. We were both so stressed out by this game that we both didn't get to finish it.
No, I've barely got like maybe like 3 or 4 hours into the game. Like it freaks me the hell out, and I don't know what it is. And it's a shame because we talked about earlier on, we're both very familiar with Majora's Mask in terms of its story and its theme.
For sure.
And like on paper, for us particularly as people, like it's a game that it's about grief and it's about loss.
Oh, for sure.
It is also a time loop kind of story, and we are both super into our time loop, time travel stories, you know. And yet, like, both of us have had this experience where whenever we try and play the game, the fact that there's this like looming dread of the reset over your head the entire time, like I get super anxious playing it, and I just like I get kind of like scared to pick it back up again. I don't know, like.
And I think it goes back to what you were talking about earlier about how we like to take our time with side quests rather than just going off and doing the main quest. And that's not an incorrect way to play. You can absolutely just play Zelda by just doing the main quest, you know, go up to Ganon with just a stick and no armor, right? And show off your technical prowess. That's absolutely, you know, a totally fine way of playing the game. But for us, we like to take our time and do side quests. So I think the fact that it's, you know, the time crunch, I guess, is really stressful. But also, I get so caught up in every small tiny thing that I do that I feel like I have to min-max everything, that for me at least, it takes out the enjoyment in something like that. And I feel like I found myself... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, it kind of feels like because the side quests are also on a timer because everyone has like a schedule that they go by. So it's kind of like, oh, I want to do that quest, but oh, I've missed it. I guess I have to like kind of start again. And like, oh, I have to. We are both like schedule freaks. Like, so
I know.
So like because our like real lives are so tightly scheduled with like I have this at this time and then this at this time and this it's kind of like when a game sort of requires me to do that, it's like I don't feel like I'm playing a game anymore. I just feel like I'm living real life again.
For sure. But maybe
except
it's
there's like a threat
go
of
ahead.
death is also there.
The looming moon that could like what's crazy though is that the moon is like it is just hanging over the town. Our impending doom is there. And what's crazy to me, and I guess this is part of what scared me when I was like younger, was that everyone kind of just kept going on with their lives. You know what I mean? Like they kept worrying about the everyday. And I'm like, whoa, guys, I think we have bigger problems in this festival that we're trying to put on. You know what I mean? Yeah. And to me, that was super scary. I was just like, hello, am I going crazy? Am I the only one who's like worried that everyone's gonna die in a bit? You know what I mean?
And this is the thing, like, I actually think because of all of that, it might be the most well-executed Zelda game they've ever made, because they absolutely nailed exactly what they were going for with that.
Oh, for sure.
Like, it's like they had this concept, and I think they nailed it so hard that, like, if that concept, like, freaks you out, you're probably not going to be able to enjoy the game. Because they did it so well.
They did it so well,
you know?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, for sure. But yeah, no, my respect to Majora's Mask as a story and as a game, but it's just not for me. I can't do it. Oh my gosh.
Maybe one day.
Oh yeah, maybe one day. And I feel like maybe I just have to go into the mindset that I went with like Persona. Because at first in Persona, I was so concerned like, oh, what if I'm not building my skills enough? What if I, instead of, you know, going to do my job or like going to do increase my proficiency, I went to go hang out with my friend and stuff. And as I kept playing Persona, what I've sort of came to terms with, not just in the game, but also try to bring into my life, is that like, I don't have to min-max everything. And I can kind of just like enjoy the journey for what it is. And maybe I need to take that mindset going into Majora's Mask, that it's like, hey, I could still probably save everyone, you know, maybe after a few tries, even if I don't do everything. You know what I mean? But sort of moving on from Majora's Mask to kind of relieve ourselves from that stressful journey, to kind of lean more into what gives us that sense of wonder. As a fellow side quester, let's talk about exploration in Zelda. What do you think the game sort of does well in helping you feel that sense of exploration? We talked a little bit about side quests and the world building as well, but is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, I think again, it's different between like the 2D and the 3D games. I think what the 3D games do really well with the exploration is a sense of scale a lot of the time. You really feel like this world that you're in is huge, no matter what. Like in reality, the games might actually not be that big. Like if you actually think about like how much of the map is like active and kind of has stuff to do on it in Wind Waker, it's very small actually. But the fact that it's like the scale is so large, it really feels like you have this whole world to explore. And even in games where they had like really serious limitations of like, you know, Twilight Princess has all of its different areas kind of split into sections that it has to load to be able to do a map of that size, and Skyward Sword has like, you know, these different areas that you go to throughout the clouds. I think with Breath of the Wild you get a game that like finally the technical limitations of the hardware they were using were kind of lifted to a point where they could properly do a Zelda world of a scale that they really always wanted to. And I think how well they executed that was incredible. With all the different biomes that you have as well. I feel like Zelda was probably one of the games that really pioneered a lot of that, about the whole idea of like, you've got these dungeons to explore, but then you've got like a lava mountain, and then you might have like a frozen world, and you might have like a big underwater section. Like, you know, a lot of these tropes really started with Zelda in a lot of ways, and like those early Dragon Quests and Final Fantasies and stuff. Kind of pioneered a lot of those things. And so I think as you go into all these different biomes, which I think is where the 2D games really excel, is like the design of the different dungeons and the designs of the different parts of the map to make them feel unique. You get this sense of progression as you're wandering and exploring. And as someone who's like, I'm a real like traveler in real life as well, like I love traveling, I love exploring the world, I love new cultures and new food and all that kind of stuff, and I think Zelda like encapsulates that really well, being, you know, you're this kind of wanderer, this traveler going across realms, and especially when you get to explore outside of Hyrule as well, and it opens up the fact that this is a bigger world than just Hyrule too. I think the scope and the scale and the attention to detail of the different cultures as well that live within the world, I think, are what draw me to it.
For sure. And honestly, like, I feel like it like humbles me, you know, like I'm just a girl in this big world, and I don't know anything, and I'm just here to like learn and be a part of it, and you know what I mean? And it was funny how you were saying that, like, this is a really random tangent, that Zelda sort of influenced your sense of being like a traveler in the real world as well. It's funny, I went on a hike once, and I saw a plant, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a blank in Breath of the Wild. And I like in my head, I like leaned down to pick it up, and I was like, I gotta put it in my like Collectopedia or whatever. I was like, oh, but wait, no, not. When touching grass doesn't work, goodness. But no, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, it's so funny because like a lot of the times when I'm like looking to places to travel in the world, I'm always drawn to the places that basically look like ancient ruins from like Zelda games. Oh, for sure. To a point then where like if me and my partner are like looking at places to go and visit and explore, she'll like show me some things and I'll be like, yeah, we're going there, that looks like Zelda.
No, you're so real for that, because I have like a list of like countries I want to go to because I haven't been there or whatever, and a lot of them, like, I have a side note of like, oh, this was featured in like this show, or like this was featured, you know what I mean? And oh my gosh, so funny that we have that similar sort of thing about traveling and video games and things like that. But yeah, it's sort of departing from this conversation about a sense of exploration in the Legend of Zelda series. You also mentioned that not only was the series a introduction to you and exploring the world and having that sense of wonder and whimsy, but it also introduced you to the concept of narrative storytelling in video games. So I want to know, what did Zelda teach you about narrative storytelling?
I think my favorite thing about the storytelling in a lot of Zelda games is that, I mean, again, depends on which game, but like a lot of the games are quite loose and ambiguous in their storytelling. There are some games that aren't, like Skyward Sword, I think, that has a very tightly written narrative that I think is really well done. But in some of the other games, the older 3D games and the 2D games and the newer like Wilds games, especially so, there's like a very loose kind of structure to the narrative. And then the design of the world, it's kind of what's called environmental storytelling, but the design of the world fills in a lot of the blanks in the lore and the history. And so it's kind of up to you, the player, as the person who's existing in this world, to piece together a lot of that lore. And I think that's something that I really love about it. It's why like there's so much like Zelda lore content on YouTube, because there is so much ambiguity in these games, but the breadcrumbs are there for you to find if you look. You know, like, yeah, we love breadcrumbs.
No, I absolutely agree. I feel like it's very similar to how we take in the world around us in real life. Like, sure, you can go to school and just be told what happens and like told the history, but it's so much more, I don't know, immersive, or and it feels so it's so much more exciting when in the real world you can experience and like take in history by like visiting somewhere and talking to locals, or looking at the architecture and seeing if that tells a story, or like how are these like plates like left out on the table before, you know, something happened. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's so much more immersive learning about the world that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like the Wilds games are so good at that, because like there's little bits just even in like, you know, when you pick up the rock salt and then you look at the rock salt in your menu, and it has a little thing where it's like left over from when Hyrule was submerged under a great sea or something, and you're like, oh, this is like, okay, so is this happening after the Wind Waker? Like, or, you know, so that all of these little things that are kind of built into little bits of description here and there, or like where you have characters that have slightly recurring designs, or bosses that seem to harken back to, like in Tears of the Kingdom, we got a boss called Colgera, which is like, okay, there's a boss called Mulgera in Wind Waker as well, but they don't look that similar. It actually looks more similar to Goma in Wind Waker. So there's like, okay, well, there's obviously some very intentional design links being made here. There's some parallels happening, and it's kind of up to you as a player, as a theorist, as someone who's invested in the series, to try and figure out like, where are these connections coming from, and like, why is that being done, like what are the reasons for this? It's obviously intentional, and that's something I really love about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like a level of ambiguity that allows you to sort of interface yourself with the world. So like, it's my job to interpret what that means rather than it being told to me, right? What is it, showing not telling, right?
Exactly.
And, you know, we kind of do something similar with our music, right? We tell stories through our music, through our lyrics. So do you feel like the storytelling in The Legend of Zelda has influenced how you tell stories in your music?
Yeah, I think so. And I think for the exact same reason, like, for me as a songwriter, ambiguity is one of the core elements of good songwriting to me.
For sure.
Because as an art form, I think songwriting is really unique in that actually it's something that songwriting shares with video games, in that it's an art form that allows the listener to become kind of active participant in the art. In that, like, as a video game, you play as the protagonist. You're not the protagonist, but you play as the protagonist, and therefore your kind of experiences and your wants and your desires and the things that you want to do kind of get projected onto this protagonist. And in a similar way, songwriting invites the listener into the headspace of, I guess, the protagonist in the song, like the voice of the song. You do get some songs that obviously tell a specific story about a person who existed. Like folk songs often do that.
For sure.
Yeah, or you might get a song that is very much written about an individual's personal experience. But the way that songs are often written, they're often written with this level of ambiguity that you as the listener can insert yourself into what's being sung and figure out how that applies to your own life. And that's why we get songs that resonate with us. We're like, oh, this song reminds me of like when I lost someone or when I loved someone, or it reminds me of this beautiful memory I had from when I was a kid, or whatever it might be. All of those things probably not going to be the original intention of the songwriter. But songs allow you to project your own self and your own experiences into the song through that level of ambiguity. I think like movies and kind of illustration art aren't quite able to do that on the same level that like songwriting and video games do. I think it's something that's really special and unique about those mediums, and I think that's kind of something that I love between the two of them.
Oh, absolutely. That idea of like showing, not telling, and leaving enough room for the player to be able to make their own interpretations. It's really powerful, for sure. Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah, I think so.
I think about how our fan songs they're not just a story about, the characters themselves. Obviously, you have, like, for example, Liberame, you have Sunday and Robin singing about, their experiences. But what we don't say, like, Penacony in the song. We don't say, like, we don't directly reference the things that happen in the game. But we write it in such a way where you can relate to, being stuck in a cycle of grief. Or knowing someone who's stuck in that cycle and wanting them to be able to break out of it. You know what I mean? And I think that was a core part of what we really wanted to convey in our works. Because, I mean, some songs are just like a villain song, and you write about how it's fun to be a villain. You know what I mean? Like, that's a character song, sure. But, in songs like Liberame and, of course, Rise Again, which you'll see very soon, we really wanted to be able to not just tell the character story, but really find the core emotional message behind that character story and convey it in a way that people can resonate with.
Yeah, it was a very conscious decision that we made, and something that we kept on coming back to a lot whilst we were writing the lyrics, especially was like, what's the core message and emotions that we're getting here that apply to these characters? And how do we ride that line between specificity about like being more zooming in on the specifics of this character in the world, and then how do we also keep it feeling ambiguous enough that if you don't know who this character is, if you don't know the story behind this, you can still understand what the message of the song is. That was always our goal with what we were doing, to make something that's true to the character and yet broad enough that it can be appreciated by anyone.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's where the fun comes from. It's like a puzzle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, I want to not just tell someone, the story about grief, but I want to be able to paint a picture of it, right? But then what images do I use that are sort of a nod to that character? You know what I mean? So when it comes to like Sunday and Robin, it's like feathers, birds, cages, robins, things like that. So it's just a fun little puzzle where you get to have a core idea of what you want to say, but how you paint that image. This could be so many opportunities, so many different ways you could paint it, but for sure,
absolutely.
I feel like music and games are such an important part of our, I guess, development as people, and I'm really glad that you sort of brought that up as a potential talking point for today. So I want to talk a little bit about that. We'll kind of go into this next segment about how Zelda, as a series, there's always been a game that has spoken to you at different times in your life. And this series is something that's always been there for you as you grow. And I really liked that, message that you sent to me, because this game raised me. It raised me too. Twilight Princess, for me, was not only a way for me to grow closer with my sisters when I was younger, but I also learned a lot from the Zelda games as well that I played as a kid. And that's actually backed up by science. Family therapists David Epstein and Michael White created a system called narrative therapy that uses the framework of storytelling to help people envision changes that they can make in their lives. And a lot of our favorite story-rich media allows us to experience this, whether it's games or music. Link's experiences that we play as are intended as magnified versions of the day-to-day challenges that we face in our lives. Battling Dark Link teaches us that facing the darker parts of ourselves head-on is how we can start to work towards a better version of ourselves. And when we finally defeat Ganon, we feel the hero's transformation, not only through that final victory, but through the many trials and tribulations we faced along the way. Not unlike any other significant milestone we have in life, like getting a degree or a new job that took a countless amount of failures to achieve. Difficult concepts are easier to unpack when we experience them through a fantasy hero we get to play as. So, not just for Riku, but for our audience as well, what game raised you? And Riku, I want to know more about the various Zelda games in your life that spoke to you. So let's start off from the very beginning, shall we? What Zelda game spoke to you as a child and why?
So my first one was Wind Waker, like I mentioned. It was a game that came at a time where I wasn't really allowed to play video games much growing up. And it wasn't until I was around about maybe like 10 years old, I got a GameCube. And I remember renting Wind Waker from my like local video rental store, because that's how old I am. And I had no like concept of how long like video games were really at that time, because like the only games I'd really like played more growing up were like Sonic the Hedgehog, like the original Sonic the Hedgehog, and like stuff like that, where it's like a, you short, pick it up and play a few levels kind of thing. So I'd never like played a game that like was so expansive and went on for so long. So like I only had it for the weekend, thinking that I could probably play through a lot of it, and then like just about like got through like the Forsaken Fortress, which is the first dungeon. Which I found so hard at that age because I had no like dexterity
fine motor
or
skills. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Twilight Princess.
Yeah, right. So like but what it did is that like I couldn't wait to like play it again, so I'd rent it out a few more times, and then finally I was able to like own my own copy and then play it properly. And I think it was like that sense of wonder that really captured me. I loved the art style, the cel-shaded art style. I thought was so expressive and so fun. And because I'd not like played another Zelda game beforehand, I wasn't clouded by a lot of the judgment that a lot of gamers were at the time, where it was like, Zelda should be, we want like a super gritty, realistic Zelda after Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. We don't want this cartoony kiddie stuff. I was a kid, so like it was perfect for me.
For sure.
I loved it, and I still remember the intro, that kind of intro exposition at the beginning with the harpsichord and the recorders playing right at the beginning, where it gives you the backstory, it tells you the lore of Ocarina of Time that leads into Wind Waker. I remember watching that, like when that comes up when you first load the game for the first time, and just being absolutely captivated by it, by the art and by the music.
For sure.
And I think like we'll talk about this a bit more later, but the music in each of these games was so pivotal to me as well.
For sure.
And there's a lot of my love of folk music was born in Wind Waker as a kid.
For sure.
So Wind Waker was huge for me, and then the other one that I played a lot and around about a similar age was Minish Cap.
I never played Minish Cap. I read it. I read the manga. Yeah.
Oh, cute. Oh, I love the Zelda manga so much.
Yeah.
They're done so well. But a Minish Cap is on the like Nintendo Switch now, on the like Game Boy Advance online stuff. It's so worth playing.
Oh my gosh!
It's
Okay, I'll play
so
it.
worth playing. It's such a charming game.
For sure.
And yeah, there's like the whole exploration part of that they did so well in such a small 2D game. Like Capcom cooked with that game, with the whole shrinking down to be tiny, and now the world the overworld that is so normal is now this like huge like foreboding thing. It's the whole thing about scale that I talked about before. It's done so well.
Yeah, I feel like these games, like when you're young, everything seems so big and scary, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like these games sort of allow you to not be so scared, you know, of the world outside.
Yeah, absolutely. As I got a bit older, I think in my early teens was when Twilight Princess came out.
Yeah!
And I was like the perfect age to just be like an edgy, broody teenager when that game came out. So it was like, I was in that like emo kids, Hot Topic generation, you know? So like,
no, that's so perfect then.
Yeah, right? It literally, it couldn't have been more perfect. It was exactly like the Zelda game that I kind of wanted at that point in my life then, because it was moody and dark. And I was all into my Tim Burton stuff and all that kind of thing. Sure. And it's got like the body horror of Link turning into a wolf and all this kind of stuff. And like, but like more than that, I think Twilight Princess also, it did some amazing things, I think, with its music and its soundtrack. I think so much of my love of orchestral music was born in Twilight Princess. There's some beautiful arrangements. Even though most of it's all MIDI, it's still done so well that it doesn't sound particularly old or dated. Like, it's really well programmed MIDI. And very expressive orchestration. There's a lot of focus on the woodwinds. There's a lot of like clarinet and oboe taking the leads, which is very unusual for like adventure music, but it creates this dark, mellow atmosphere that just permeates throughout. And then you have these like moments with like Midna's lament. So there's that moment in the story where there's a real turning point with a character called Midna, and it's that whole chapter is called like Midna's desperate hour, where she's completely dependent on you, someone who she has basically been guiding you through the journey, and now it's your turn to save her. And there's a particular music cue that happens at this moment. It's a very short loop, but it's the only music that plays through that section, and I think that's probably one of the most like goosebump inducing moments I've ever had playing a video game. It's like stayed with me forever, and that piece of music has stayed with me forever.
Absolutely.
I think Twilight Princess's atmosphere was incredible.
For sure.
When I guess getting a bit later into my teens was when Skyward Sword came out. And even though the gameplay of Skyward Sword was not something that I gelled with as much, or the kind of the progression of the gameplay wasn't kind of what I was hoping it to be, I think it's maybe got the best storytelling out of any Zelda game. And I think that resonated with me the most because it was a game that finally decided to take a real kind of mature approach to the storytelling of Zelda and Link's relationship. And like, yeah, I mean, getting into your late teens, like for me, like a lot of guess I was thinking about was like relationships at the time.
Oh, wait, that's sweet. Oh, that's precious.
And that really did resonate with me because it really was a coming of age story about these characters who were about the same age as me, about like 16, 17, who were kind of, you know, exploring themes of love, of relationships, whilst also having like, you know, these kind of big expectations and burdens put upon them as well, and what that all means. So I think that's where Skyward Sword resonated with me. And then of course, like 25th anniversary of Zelda happened around that time, and they did a big orchestral series.
Yes! Yeah.
And I went to see that first orchestral tour when it came to the UK, and like, oh my god,
Symphony of the Goddesses.
Yeah. The memories of seeing that show for, when it happened, like, changed my brain chemistry forever. Like, I just like those arrangements. I still have that soundtrack CD that came with the limited edition of Skyward Sword that I got. It's one of my favorite CDs of all time. Those symphonic arrangements of some of my favorite games and everything are absolutely stunning and some of my favorite video game orchestral arrangements of all time. So yeah, I guess speedrunning kind of as I was at some of the other ones, like going through university was when A Link Between Worlds came out. And like that's one of my favorite Zelda games of all time. I think on a mechanics level and the gameplay of it is so fun. And it was a much more simple game that I felt like I was able to really just casually dive in and have fun with when I really needed a break. So that was something I really loved there. And then as an adult then, like having graduated and going into the working world and like trying to be a musician, all this kind of stuff, that was when Breath of the Wild came out for me. And it was really just like the perfect escapism. It was like everything that I needed to just be part of another world and to immerse myself in that. And it's a game that I would just lose hours and hours and hours of my life not doing anything productive in. I would just be going around on my horse, or like when the Sheikah bike came out in the DLC, like, oh my god, I've spent hours of my life just like motorbiking around Hyrule.
You're so real for that.
So like, yeah, I feel like all these games I've had like this place, and like, hi Daryl, I've just noticed Daryl's here. Daryl mentioned Link's Awakening. A Link's Awakening I played the remake of when that came out, and again it was just like a lovely little escape from and then kind of where I'm at with my Zelda journey at the moment is that I've been longing for Zelda games where I can actually play a Zelda for a long time. And it was something that I was disappointed with in Breath of the Wild, because I kind of thought they were going in that direction.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
And then with Tears of the Kingdom, it felt like they were going in that direction, and we didn't really get it until like Hyrule Warriors.
Oh, real?
Was like that taste of like, hey, you can sort of play from Zelda and a bit from her perspective in a different context, obviously.
Have you gotten to play Echoes of Wisdom?
Yes.
I love it.
Oh, I just the finally being able to just be Zelda and experience the world through her journey and seeing it done so well was a real big thing for me.
For sure.
Because I think in a lot of ways I kind of I don't know what the word is. Like, I obviously, like, I connect with Link in some ways, but because Zelda is a bit more of a fleshed out character at times than Link, there are lots of ways that I really connect with Zelda as a character and see myself in her, and are inspired by her struggles, her journey, the expectations placed upon her and how she deals with that.
Imposter syndrome, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, her journey in Breath of the Wild is a doozy at times. Just the small amount of cutscenes that's told in, it hits really hard, and then her story in Tears of the Kingdom is like one of the most emotive stories I think Zelda has ever told.
I want to cry. For real.
I'm currently playing through Age of Imprisonment, like you are.
Yeah. Oh
and
my
it's
gosh.
like scratching that itch that I wanted from Tears of the Kingdom so bad, of like, I just want to be Zelda. I want to be in her timeline. I want to see what's going on. And like, I'm loving it so much because I'm just like, they're doing, Koei Tecmo have been doing such a great job of filling in the blanks.
Oh, for sure.
And letting you actively feel like you can be Zelda in that. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of my life journey with Zelda, I guess.
No, I love it. And like seeing, I feel like you really get out of the game what you really need. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, you know, out of Wind Waker, you got that sense of wonder and exploration and sort of understanding the world. Hey, the world isn't as scary and big as I thought it was. You know what I mean? And then you said going into your adolescence, you know, years, kind of having Twilight Princess during your emo years, but also like Skyward Sword sort of teaching you, you know, oh, like I'm exploring the idea of love and, you know, like a relationship and things like that. I feel like not just like games, but also media in general really inform you of like, oh, you know, what do I want out of a relationship, or what do I want out of like love or whatever. And then going into, you know, more of your adulthood, university, going into like the bigger world as a someone who contributes to it, whether that's like, things that you learn or, you're getting a job or whatever. But also, like, so many people get worried about, like, oh my gosh, I have to figure it out at this point. But like you were saying in Breath of the Wild, hey, sometimes I'm just gonna like go explore and like find out. You know what I mean? This is the time to figure things out, figure out my place in the world and what I want to do. So I think it's really awesome that, you're sort of able to bookmark your life with these various games. I think that's really awesome. And then, of course, with the newer games that sort of allow you to step into Zelda's shoes and explore, like, I don't know, not just Link's experiences, but also Zelda's as well. I really admire in Echoes of Wisdom, it focuses a lot on her wit. Because a lot in Zelda, in the Legend of Zelda series, when you're playing as Link, you still do have a fair amount of puzzle solving to do, right? Mm-hmm. Link can make his way around a puzzle. But for Zelda, being a scholar, right, being so intuitive, that's such a core part of her, strength, right? Strength comes in all sorts of forms. And being able to admire and appreciate not just Zelda for that, but for yourself for that, too, is really awesome. For sure.
I think like that. How they captured Zelda's ingenuity as a gameplay mechanic was so clever with Echoes of Wisdom.
Absolutely.
And it reminded me when you talk about the relationships as well that like also with Skyward Sword when that came out, I think it wasn't too long before that was when Spirit Tracks came out as well. This was like the peak era of like Z-Link like shipping
you're
in
so
like,
real for
the
that.
games.
You're so real for that.
Like Spirit Tracks' story, like I will forever, like slight spoilers for the very, very end of Spirit Tracks if you've not played it, but like you spend this whole game where like Zelda is stuck in like a spirit form and she's like following you around. It's probably the closest I think the two have ever had in a relationship in game. Like it's the one where Zelda and Link bond the most. And you can look at it platonically, but there's just this beautiful, beautiful moment at the very end of the game after you beat the final boss where they just stand there in silence whilst the demon is like defeated. And they're just quietly there and just wordlessly like hold each other's hand. And it's like one of the most beautiful endings to a video game I think I've ever played. And it shows the like that kind of quiet but really powerful bond that those characters can have. That's always stood with me too.
And I feel like what we take away from these games, it kind of hammers home that the idea that like not only are the people in your life, influencing how you're shaped as a kid, right? Your parents raise you, the people that you're around, or your community who help raise you. It's also the games that you play and the shows that you watch that sort of influence how you perceive the world, right? So like I remember watching Snow White with the Red Hair for the first time when I was a bit younger. And that sort of informed me like, this is what a healthy relationship looks like. This is what, my perception of what love should look like. You know what I mean? And so like I feel like in that regard, playing The Legend of Zelda, I learned so much about how I want to be as a person, how I want to care for other people. And like just going back to Zelda, in Tears of the Kingdom specifically, and so sorry, I'm gonna try not to spoil this too much, but her sacrifice, how's that? I think that's vague enough. Showing me that like it's admirable and it takes strength to be able to fight for a future you don't know you'll be able to see. Does that make sense? And like,
there's
I
a
love
selflessness to that. That's just so powerful.
For sure. And it tells me like I want to be like that. I want to be like her. Yeah.
I think Zelda in a lot of the games actually, like even though she's this princess and a lot of the time like there is that whole like she's a princess who needs saving, like is kind of part of that kind of that trope, right? But I think where Zelda's character is so important is that actually like she's never helpless.
Yeah.
Like apart from in those very, very, very early games where there wasn't really much story and you can forgive them for that. But like ever since kind of like even A Link to the Past onwards, as soon as there's been any depth to the storytelling of Zelda, they've always made sure that Zelda has a lot of agency in what she's doing. And In almost every single final boss fight, Zelda's involved actively in some way. Like, she's not on the sidelines. Like, she's like, you cannot defeat Ganon without Zelda's help in almost every single boss fight, like from a gameplay perspective as well. And I think that's so important that like, you know, this is a hero saves princess kind of story, but Zelda's character has always been fleshed out in a way that, like, she is incredibly intelligent. She's incredibly resourceful. And a lot of the time, the reason why she needs saving in inverted commas is because she's made some kind of sacrifice to help the hero do what they need to do. And like in Breath of the Wild, where she has sacrificed herself to trap Ganon in Hyrule Castle. And in Twilight Princess, where she's working behind the scenes to try and undermine Zant as much as she possibly can from Hyrule Castle. And in Skyward Sword, where she's trying to unlock her powers. Breath of the Wild follows a very similar thing. She's going to all the shrines because her power is the key to success at the end of the day. So I think the way that she's been always treated in the Zelda series,
for sure,
is always super important. Ocarina of Time as well. Like, you know, she is the reason why you know what Ganon is up to, and she gives you those premonitions and all that. So yeah, I really love her as a character. I really love her as a character, and I always think that she's treated and written incredibly well.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you say that, because I feel like not just like with Link as well, obviously because he's our protagonist, but a lot of the times we put a lot of focus on very showy things, like the big sort of like showy displays of power, right? But you know, it's nice to put that emphasis on how people are able to help and contribute to our community in other ways. You know what I mean? Like, she needs help, but she's not helpless, right? We all need help. You know, that doesn't mean we're helpless and all that jazz. So I love that you pointed that out, for sure. Oh gosh. Well, I'm kind of itching to learn more about it. I'm sure lots of folks are, you know, interested in learning about this as well. We've kind of dropped hints about this throughout the show. But of course, Riku, you're also an amazing musician as well. And I'm sure you have Zelda to think about that as well. You mentioned that your love of folk music can be traced back to your love of The Legend of Zelda. So as we go into this final section, I know, final section, I'll share one more sort of bit of learning that I learning that I learned from the book that I read, from the reading that I read. Anyway, but I guess the sort of core of what we're trying to get to here today is, why is Zelda's music so powerful, right? Not just for you, Riku, but for all of us. It's because music and sounds are such a core part of the experience, whether you're aware of it or not. Of course, our titular character, Link, is able to perform magical feats thanks to his expertise on the ocarina, but music also accompanies every action you take. We trust the music to tell us things about the world around us, whether there's an enemy locked onto us or if we're finally in the clear. It teaches us through repeated exposure to melodies, to build emotional connections to people and places. And as that music changes, we understand those changes even without words. And of course, as we hear these melodies and motifs throughout the franchise's very extensive history, it evokes memories and associations for fans both new and old. And it resurfaces very pleasant, or maybe not so pleasant memories if you're thinking about the Guardian, you know. I know, right? It's like a Pavlovian sort of reflex. I'm like, oh, I'm ready. I'm in like my ready stance. But we are able to flight. No, literally, and I flight. But yeah, we were able to resurface pleasant memories with this game and story we've come to love. So I guess I'll start things off simply. What do you love about Zelda's music?
I think there's a bunch of things for me. Like each game kind of has its own sound, and I love that. That kind of, no matter what mood I'm in, there's sort of a soundtrack for me that I'm gonna gravitate towards. Like I mentioned with Wind Waker, like I think I can pinpoint a lot of my love of folk music to that game, from the opening title music that has the mandolin and the tin whistle and the fiddle kind of all playing together, to the Great Sea theme with the cello taking that beautiful like ostinato pattern underneath that just feels like the waves rolling. The dark,
do you want to sort of, with your expertise, your musical expertise, maybe turn this into a teaching moment for folks who may not be familiar with some musical terminology?
Yeah, of course. So that phrase that I use there, an ostinato is a type of musical device where you have like a melodic and rhythmic kind of pattern that gets repeated. It's used a lot in film music, for example, to often like in when we're creating tension or moments like that. I always think of like the Dark Knight soundtrack has this like that would be an example of an ostinato pattern, right? With the Great Sea theme, you have this that kind of underpins a whole song as the brass take the melody above it. You have this this pattern that goes underneath, this ostinato underneath that's played on the cello. And I think the way that ostinato rises and falls, it starts on this like arpeggio, which means you're breaking up the notes of a chord and playing them individually. It's do, 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 and then it rises like that and then descends afterwards. To me, like it's a melody that's shaped like a wave, like it rises and then falls, like it's a melody that's in the shape of a wave. And so because it rises and falls in that way, it just completely evokes the feeling of going across the sea. This,
it reminds me of Scheherazade, the Mumatu, the young prince of the and the sea, the sea and Sinbad ship or something like that, and it's like da 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 da. And as a violist, I'm very familiar. You're basically playing the role of the waves the entire time.
Exactly, yeah. And you've got like La Mer and like all these other kind of like pieces of music that it's a very common thing, I think, in evoking the feeling of the sea. Is that because the sea is this constant like up and down as you go over waves. How this is kind of one of the key, it's a little bit of a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, you know, it works super well in conveying that feeling. So yeah, and then, you know, the orchestration of Twilight Princess, the different colors of the orchestration there, how the woodwinds, the dark sounding woodwinds take such a focus in that orchestration. And then like, you know, as you get into the Wild series, you have this like incredibly sparse ambient music that is so different from what we've seen in other Zelda, heard in other Zelda games, but it beautifully underpins the gameplay loop of that game. It feels very evocative of like Joe Hisaishi's compositions for like a lot of Studio Ghibli films like Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away and things like that. This beautifully kind of sparse piano kind of parts.
Right.
And then, you know, as Tears of the Kingdom might have one of my favorite soundtracks because it kind of has everything that makes Breath of the Wild great, but then it adds on some like huge, like bombastic moments of the score that were kind of missing from Breath of the Wild a little bit. The whole Colgera, not just the boss fight, but the music that leads you up into that boss fight is quite possibly one of my like favorite moments musically and gameplay of any Zelda game ever. The fact that like you have this like chromatic motif that happens in the string parts. So when we move chromatically, that means we're moving like a semitone at a time, which is the smallest movement you can make in pitch in like our traditional
like Western
kind of,
music,
Western kind of music system. So you have this like and that grows and it crescendos, which means it grows in volume and then goes down in volume. There's an amazing video on this, by the way, by a YouTuber called Fariha. who broke down the like music theory of this entire section in Tears of the Kingdom. And basically, this is as you're trying to get up to the Stormwind arc, this big like floating ship in the sky, right? And you're having to climb up in all of these floating platforms in this storm, and so the music is like evoking the wind. This kind of is done musically. And then during the Kogera boss fight, you have like a reprise of the Rito Village theme, which is also the Dragon Roost Island theme. There's a whole like, 25-year lineage of this piece of music and what it means to this culture in the Zelda. And
absolutely.
How it's done in this big triumphant moment where you're skydiving down to try and defeat this boss. It's just like pure like elation in music. I love it so much. I could gush about it forever.
For real. I know we really could. Because we were talking in like Twitter replies about motifs and such. As much as I love like character motifs, like when the two characters are having a conversation and their music, their motifs are also having a dialogue in the background. I love that. I eat that up. But I love a motif for a place. I love place motifs because it's just so empowering, because it's like I go to a place and I hear the music in a sort of like calm, sort of like evening time. I'm like, yes, I'm home. But then we have like a fight for that place, right? Like we're fighting together as a community, as members of this nation, and that music is playing in a really epic arrangement. I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is the battle for our lives. This is the battle for our home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah,
and
I love how Zelda how Zelda does that. I think I love in Breath of the Wild the Hyrule Castle theme in particular, about how it incorporates elements of Ganon's music as well as Hyrule Castle, and it kind of interweaves these two different themes, because obviously we have there's a legacy of the Hyrule Castle music, but then you also have the this is Hyrule Castle that is possessed by the Calamity Ganon, so you have this and how it interweaves those two things is so well done. There's also I love how Kakariko Village comes and goes as well in different games. I love how in Twilight Princess they wrote their own Kakariko Village theme, but then it's either the B or C section brings back that original Kakariko Village motif again. I'm still on the fence about whether I like Breath of the Wild's completely new Kakariko Village theme that doesn't use the old motifs.
Yeah. I get that.
I love it, but I miss
I know.
the Kakariko Village. But yeah. Do you know there's
go ahead.
I was gonna say I think one of my favorite this is major spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay, spoiler alert to go.
So I'm gonna mute for the next 20 seconds.
20 seconds, go.
If you really don't want to know the ending. Okay, so the first trailer that came out for Tears of the Kingdom.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Continue.
Spoiled the end of the game through the music.
Yes.
And I don't know how many people picked up on this at the time, but it's so genius, right?
Good.
So the end of that Tears of the Kingdom trailer music is phenomenal.
So good.
But the very end of the trailer music plays Zelda's lullaby motif.
Like 3 notes.
3 notes. The
da da da.
Yep. It plays that on the erhu. So the erhu is a Chinese instrument, stringed instrument, 2-stringed instrument, beautiful instrument that in the Breath of the Wild's games is used very specifically for one thing, and it represents the 3 dragons that float throughout the overworld that are references to Din, Farore, and Nehru, the kind of the creator gods of Hyrule. It is kind of obviously these are very Chinese looking dragons in their style, like the kind of Shenlong
Eastern
style.
dragons, yeah.
Yeah. And so picking the erhu to represent them makes sense. It's this history of Chinese dragons and attributing a Chinese instrument to them. That's the only time the erhu is ever used in Breath of the Wild, is to represent those dragons. When you go near them, that plays. the fact that they play Zelda's lullaby on an erhu
It's like, are you picking up what we're putting down?
Yeah, it tells you who the light dragon was, right? Which is something that you don't find out properly. You might, I mean, it's not that difficult to figure it out as soon as you see the light dragon for the first time. But it's something that's not revealed properly until like a very long way through the game, and you might not see the memories of when that actually happens until much further in.
Right.
The fact that like that spoiler was in plain sight in the music in the trailer is so genius, and no one seemed to really pick up on it at the time. But yeah,
I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, Zelda's lullaby, cute. And I was like, awesome. And then like, as soon as that cutscene played where they revealed it, I was like, oh my God, the trailer. I was like, no way. I was like, that's crazy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, genius.
Showing, not telling, guys, for real.
Yeah, it just shows how powerful music is in storytelling. You know,
it really is.
And I think the arrangement team really cooked hard with like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom in how they used these existing motifs to help tell their story. And then in that final cutscene at the end of the game where that massive orchestral Zelda's lullaby comes in as you're like reaching for it, is like another like goosebumps. Like, it's just stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Tears nonstop. Because music and is so closely tied to memory. And I mean, you see this with like, you know, in hospice care or palliative care, a lot of times, like, you know, folks who have like dementia, even, you know, who are forgetting a lot of their memories, music is such an important part of like resurfacing those memories. And just going back to that moment with Zelda and her lullaby at the very end, you're not just experiencing that moment, but you're also thinking back to all of the moments where that song played, to Zelda's entire journey, because the music evokes those memories, and it makes it such a powerful moment, for sure.
Yeah, and not just through that game, but also the entire series, and especially as in the lore of the Zelda series, we know that these are essentially the same souls reincarnating over and over again through eons. So it's like, you know, this isn't just the culmination of this game. It's not just the culmination of this game and Breath of the Wild. It's the culmination of Zelda all the way from the reincarnation of the princess in Skyward Sword all the way through to now, and everything that she's gone through, every time that like her kingdom has fallen and they've had to rise above it, every single time that she's sacrificed everything, every single time that Link has been there to support her, to find her, to help her, to save her, like that moment in Tears of the Kingdom, because from what we understand it is the end of the timeline, it really like is the final climax of like all of that so far, and that motif, that 3-note motif, holds all of that power in it. It's just incredible. It really is. It's something that you can only get in a series that's been going for so long. You know, like it has that history.
There's a whole like mythology to the music. You know what I mean? There's a history to it, and you're able to draw on that.
Yeah, and the other thing that so this is a very personal thing for music for me. Is that for me, like, music has like a very magical quality to me, and like I don't just mean that in a very like airy fairy kind of way. Like, if there's any magic I believe in, it is music. If there's anything spiritual I believe in, it is music. I believe music is spiritual. I believe music is magical, and I do actually think, now I think about it, I think a lot of that maybe does originate with Zelda, because music holds magical power in Zelda. Like literally, it does. Like it can warp you through time. It can control the winds. It can create magical powers and barriers and all this kind of stuff. Like music is magic in Zelda. And I think that is something that really has stayed with me in real life as well. That like, I think music is magical. Like it does have this otherworldly spiritual quality to it.
Yeah, like it tells our stories. It connects people. It connects people from all across the globe. It heals us. It really is, for sure.
Yeah.
Gosh, we could literally go on all day about this. But yeah, it's such a powerful like storytelling tool. Like we mentioned, showing, not telling. Not to make this another tangent about motifs. I love how it can tell you something about a character without them telling you. You know what I mean? You take a motif and you see the bumbling Goron hero sort of start off a little like unsure of himself, and the instrumentation of the Goron theme is like womp 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 womp, a little messy, a little silly, fumbling. But then as you see him grow and become a strong warrior, you get a version of that that's more powerful and strong, like dun dun da 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 da. You know what I mean? And you really get to see that journey in the music.
Yeah, there's some characters that's done really well with as well. I think Roos in Skyward Sword is a character that gets that kind of treatment really well, where he has like this really silly kind of bassoon-led kind of motif, but like, you know, by the end of the game, he manages to have like these heroic moments and redeems a lot of his kind of like,
for sure,
you know, pretty like selfish actions in the early parts of the game, you know. But the music is there to help tell that story too.
For sure. This is sort of departing a little bit from Legend of Zelda, more kind of bringing this back to you. Do you feel like you have a motif? Like, I mean, I guess you could say like a producer tag, but like, do you have your own musical motifs? Do you have a soundtrack of your life or something?
There are actually some melodies and motifs that I purposefully interweave into a lot of my music. Not everything, but they are there, and they are things that kind of like have some meaning to me. They are not necessarily motifs that I tell anyone about or want to necessarily bring attention to.
For sure.
But they are there, and they do have like some personal connections to my own musical journey, and kind of in some ways exemplify everything that I love in music and find beautiful in music, and they tend to emphasize certain intervals that I think are like the most beautiful intervals and things like that. So they do live in a lot of my songs, and I do like to work them in when I can. And so even though like I try and do it subtly so it doesn't sound like I'm doing the same thing in like every song that I write, I hope it does kind of create a bit of a sound world to a lot of the music that I write. And hopefully that's something that people can kind of hear when I'm in my writing, maybe.
Your musical signature, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, VTuber musician historians are going to be like, "That's time to study Riku, Wonder Riku." I was like, oh my gosh, my favorite composer. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. But then in turn also, I'm sure people are influenced by your music as well. And then, you know, you become part of their musical signature as well, just as Zelda has become a part of yours. For sure.
That's, I don't know if I'll ever get to that point, but...
No, I'm pretty sure you already have. And maybe it's not, you know, influencing other people's music, but also like influencing other people's lives, I'm sure. Isn't that crazy? Crazy cool.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. It's hard to kind of comprehend, to be honest.
It really is. And again, I get that that's sort of part of the magic of music, right? You can never really fully understand it, for sure. But thank you so much for coming on here to talk about, you know, your love for Zelda and how it's influenced you as a person and as a musician. We should probably start wrapping up soon because I think we've hit our upper wall on this show. I was like, no, I'm gonna hit as close as possible to this to my sort of self-imposed, I guess, time limits, because, you know, not only is Zelda also a really important part of my life, but also you're a good friend and colleague and mentor. So I was really excited for this episode as well. But as we sort of start to wrap up, we'll take a few questions if there's any. And then we'll have Riku do some last, I guess, shout outs, things that he's doing, all that good stuff before we wrap up. I did see one question, though, in the chat earlier, and you all are more than welcome to add some more now. What is your favorite Zelda game? I don't know if we clarified that yet. You talked about your first, you know, your least favorite, but what would you say is your favorite right now?
It's really tough, but I think... my favorites tend to be the ones that I have the most fun from a gameplay perspective with, because obviously that's kind of what you spend the most time with. So even though like all these games like hold special places, from a gameplay perspective, I think the ones that I've enjoyed the most are Breath of the Wild and A Link Between Worlds, actually. I think those are the games that like I think I had the most fun playing and enjoyed my time with the most. And I think A Link Between Worlds for me kind of perfected the kind of 2D Zelda formula whilst also doing a lot of really unique things with it. And I think Breath of the Wild kind of, in many ways, perfected the kind of survival style formula. I mean, it's the first game they really tried of that style, but I think they nailed it first time. And even though I love Tears of the Kingdom for many other reasons, I actually kind of think that on a gameplay level, on the fun of playing it kind of level, I think I still enjoy my time with Breath of the Wild more, and I'm more inclined to revisit that when I want to play through. I think just because I get really overwhelmed with the crafting system in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. And I think also, like, it's the feeling of, like, the environment feels a little more dire than Breath of the Wild sometimes, so I feel a bit more stressed out. Breath of the Wild is definitely the one where I go to, like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna go ride a horse throughout, like, Hyrule Field or something.
That's how I feel.
Oh my gosh. Now, I have a question for you. What do you think about Age of Imprisonment so far? I'll tell you where I am so we don't spoil. Yeah. I'll tell you in terms of where I am, in terms of, like, the Tears of the Kingdom tiers. I am, like, just past, whatchamacallit. Just past the unfortunate thing that happens to Sonia. And I've met a very important Zora character.
Right, cool.
That's where I am right now.
I'm only a little bit further than you.
Okay.
Yep. I've met some of the other characters kind of after that.
Okay.
But yeah, okay. So I think there's always a lot of, like, negative discourse, I feel like, online about like the Musou games. And like, I get it, but at the same time, like, I'm loving it.
Same. Me button smash.
Yeah. I think because I really loved Age of Calamity a lot, because again, it was that first game where I was able to actually play Zelda, and I feel like I played most of that game as Princess Zelda as much as possible in Age of Calamity. And I actually find the gameplay really engaging. I think a lot of people think it's just like you smash through endless hordes, but it's actually in some ways it's more akin to, it's not quite, but it's more like a Monster Hunter, where it's actually like the game is more about just having, like, constant boss fights, basically. Like the minions are just, like, the bit in between, but, like, in the Musou games, you're just going from, at least in the, like, Hyrule Warriors games, you're going from boss fight to boss fight to boss fight, basically. And I kind of love games that do that. I really like that format, and there's a real kind of structure to that gameplay where you start to learn the enemy's movements, you get better at it, and then once you get super comfortable at it and you can basically just stun lock an entire boss and like defeat it before they're able to even, like, hit you with a single attack is, like, really satisfying. So, like, I think I played about, like, 150 hours into Age of Calamity or something.
Real.
So currently I'm, like, absolutely loving Age of Imprisonment, and I'm loving it even more because so far it's all canon, and
so far.
I don't know if that changes. I'm really hoping it doesn't, because it was the thing that bothered me the most about Age of Calamity was when it went off the rails with the story a bit, and I'm like, okay, I understand that you want to give it a happy ending, but that's not the point of this story. So it kind of, I found that disappointing. So at the moment, please don't, no one spoil this, no one say in chat or anything, because I've managed to stay away from any. I've had one minor thing spoiled for me, and that's been it.
No,
but, like,
I'm sorry. I don't think I've had anything spoiled for me yet.
It's only a minor thing that I've had spoiled. I'm still annoyed that I saw it. But as far as I know so far, it's all canon, and it stays canon, and I'm just really hoping it stays canon.
I'm hoping it stays canon too. I mean, like, I wasn't too bothered by it not being canon in Age of Calamity. I think the only reason why I'm not as upset as other people is because I didn't watch any trailers. I was like, I want to go into it blind. And so I think a lot of people through the trailers had the expectation it was going to be canon. I kind of went...
imply it in the marketing, and I think that was a bad decision.
I absolutely understand why you would be upset. I went into it blank slate, so I wasn't upset because I didn't see the marketing, but I totally get that. Gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in like Musou games, I actually also get to like fight. I feel like when I'm playing like in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom or whatever, I'm more, I try to solve a puzzle. I try to solve my way out of issues. Like, I can't remember any time I've completely finished fighting a Lionel in Breath of the Wild. I don't think I ever have. And I'm fine. I'm fine with that. That's okay. I love, like, you know, I'd rather sneak than fight. I'd rather figure out a way to solve, you know, a battle through my wit rather than my strength. But in Musou games, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm strong. Give me another Lionel. I got this. And it's sort of like more of my time to be able to lean more into that aspect of the Zelda series. But we have another question. Yeah. Not to make this super speed round for you, but Panama asks, do you have a favorite Zelda incarnation? Panama says, I personally love her in Wind Waker, but just because I love pirates. What do you have to say about that?
Ooh, that's tough. I do love her in Wind Waker, but I kind of love her as Tetra, and then the moment she awakens as Princess Zelda, she just kind of gets relegated to the background of the story right until the very end of the game, and I find that disappointing. And then I was also really disappointed with Phantom Hourglass, where like Zelda just gets turned into a statue for the entire game. Well, Tetra gets turned into a statue for the entire game, because like, yeah, that was really disappointing. I love Tetra so much, and I kind of, I think it's a shame that we haven't had any like Zelda taking on a different identity in a long time. Like that used to be that was a bit of a trope for a while with Sheikah and Tetra. It's a shame we haven't had that, because I think it's cool. I think it's cool when we get to play with Zelda kind of hiding her identity a bit. I guess she does in a bit of Echoes of Wisdom, because people don't think she's the right Zelda. But I think my favorite incarnations are, it's a really it's a tie, I think, between Skyward Sword.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
Because I think she's given a lot of depth and a lot of character. I think it's the first time that I think Zelda was really given that much character as Princess Zelda. Well, I guess she's not technically a princess yet, because Hyrule's not a thing yet. But yeah. And then I think it's a tie between Skyward Sword, between Echoes of Wisdom, because she is actively the protagonist in that game. There's a lot that's really cool in the way that's done. And then the Wilds games, I think, does have, I think, one of the most engaging versions of Zelda, with
absolutely
the most complexity. Everything from her relationship with her father, the kind of implied relationship with her mother who passed, and the way that her closeness with Link blossoms and how that starts compared to where it ends is really powerful. Her respect for those who she learns from. I'm loving her relationship with Sonya and Raru that's being explored more in Age of Imprisonment. Yeah.
Literally.
Kind of like Sonya being the mother figure that she misses, and Raru being someone who absolutely reminds her of her father, who also passed. So there's a real there's something really powerful in all of that with that incarnation of Zelda, for sure.
And I love seeing Zelda sort of like in these moments where she's not at her best. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people are so quick to be like, oh, she's mean in this in Breath of the Wild. Oh, she's kind of, and like, yeah, some of the things she does is very like, I guess, you know, I guess mean, I'll use the same word, but we really get to see how her feelings of like inadequacy or her imposter syndrome, or a lot of the stresses and expectations that are put on her, influence her and her relationships with other people and how she perceives other people. And she sort of grows from that. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the anger that she puts towards Link at the beginning is just a reflection of a lot of her feelings of inadequacy. Because she looks at Link and sees everything that she believes she can't be. You know what I mean? And she believes like, oh, Link has it all, but I'm here still trying to figure it out, when in reality, like, no one knows what they're doing, you know what I mean? So like being able to see Zelda in those sort of tougher moments is honestly like helpful for me too, being like, I don't always have to be perfect. And like, I also have to understand that my weaknesses, you know, have an effect on other people as well. And, you know, I shouldn't shy away from those things, my weaknesses and the darker parts of myself, but rather I should get to know them so that I can become a better person, despite those.
Yeah. And I love how, like, you know, the feeling of letting everyone down is the thing that kind of holds Zelda back in Breath of the Wild, when we find out 100 years ago where she's trying to unlock her powers. And it's kind of implied that it's the weight of expectations that have been placed on her by her father, mixed with the pressure of an impending apocalypse.
Right.
Is what is kind of mentally blocking her from being able to access the spiritual power that she needs. And the thing that unlocks it for her is that moment where Link is basically about to be completely defeated, and she's the only one who can save him in that moment. And it's, for me, I understand that as like, it's obviously a moment of desperation, but it's also a moment where she realizes that she is the only one with the strength to save the people who she loves. And that she does have that ability. And I think that, I'm not sure whether that's something that she consciously understands at that point, but from what I understand is that, like, you know, you can look at that and how she's done everything right up until this point in her life. She's done exactly as she's been told. She's gone to all the shrines and prayed. She's done everything her mother told her, everything her father told her, all his expectations, and it's still not working. What works for her isn't what worked for her parents, and it isn't what worked for the people, the expectations around her. What works for her is being in tune with her emotions and her feelings and her connections with the people who she loves, and that's what unlocks her power for her. And I think that's a really important lesson for anyone to take away, that like the expectations that people put on you, whether it's your parents or other people, to tell you the things that you should be doing with your life, that might have worked for them. It doesn't mean it will work for you. And we all find our own way there. And I think that's something that I love about her in those games as well, is that it's really about her finding her way into maturity through her own path.
For sure. And I feel like, you know, any other people pleaser type folk out there can understand sort of like chasing extrinsic motivators burns you out. You can't be doing that that can't be your reason to do things for your life, right? You can't be doing it just for your parents' approval or, you know, the approval of other people. But in that moment, she's able to find that intrinsic motivation, and that's where she's able to really tap into her true strength, which is awesome. And like this is such a beautiful note to end on. So I'll go ahead and close the questions for now. If you have any other questions for Riku, if you want to leave them in the comments, I'm sure he'll be taking a look at that, seeing what everyone has to say, I'm sure. So thank you all so much for watching and listening in to us today. Before we head out, I do want to give Riku a chance to share any exciting things that he's working on right now, or that you all should look forward to, or any, you know, fun little teasers, if you will.
Yeah, so in the next kind of few weeks, there's a lot of stuff coming out. This is like the calm before the storm. So obviously we mentioned earlier on about Rise Again, which is our latest collaboration with Honkai Star Rail. It was done for Multiverse Vistas. Sorry, no, not that one.
Close. For sure.
Yeah, it was done for Hoyo Fair this year, and which it's out now on Crunchyroll already, but it's getting released on YouTube on the November 22nd. So look out for Rise Again. It has a music video by Dylan Goo Studios, which is a dream come true for both of us. So we're really excited about that. We also will be releasing, both of us, we're going to be releasing a bunch of content around that. that we really hope you can look forward to. We're going to be doing, as well as that music video, we're going to have some breakdowns about the behind the scenes. We've also got things like orchestral videos, and also potentially some little covers that we might be doing as well. We, as well as that, can we announce this here? Do you think we should?
You can, please, by all means.
Rise Again is part 1 of a 2-part song series, which has kind of been affectionately dubbed Amphorius the Musical by the Hoyoverse team. This was part of what they commissioned us to do, was to write these 2 songs that help tell the story of Amphorius. We decided to focus on the story of Finon and Cyrene. So whereas we have Rise Again, which is from the perspective of Finon, we also have part 2, which is called Never Fall, and that will release very shortly after Rise Again, and it will kind of be showing the second part of the Amphorius story, predominantly from the perspective of Cyrene. So you will have not 1 but 2 Hoyoverse songs dropping in the next couple of weeks.
And that is your fun little treat. You heard it here first as viewers of the media that shapes us. So please look forward to all of the exciting releases that we have in store for you all today. And thank you all for being here. And of course, thank you to the one and only Wonderiku for being here today. It was an absolute pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun talking about Zelda, especially with someone who Zelda means so much to as well. So I'm glad we were, and I think a lot of our experiences with Zelda and what we love about it have a lot of crossover. So it's been really, really fun to talk to someone about that who gets it, you know?
Oh, I get it. I get it. I absolutely get it, for sure. So yeah, it's been an amazing time. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see you when we see you. Be sure to check out Wonderiku on YouTube, Twitter, and any major streaming service. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. All right, we're gonna be raiding into Nami playing Red Dead Redemption. I haven't played that yet. I know a couple of people who like that game. And then on the Twitch side, we're gonna raid into Loon playing Expedition 33. All righty.